But anyways, yeah, like I was saying, the dollar index is just absolutely skyrocketing, and that's why we're seeing this just dip, right? And if we put on our high time frame analysis, a lot of people, again, we don't even need to understand that Dixie is just going up to know that we are supposed to be trend trading in this, but we also know that our last high time frame sweep is right here, right on the daily time frame. And let me just pull up the injections real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. Looks like we failed to break this outer injection out here, but all this, the very top, could have been used as a POI, which has been allowing that to actually shoot down. I'll do so because of the fractal sweep. Just getting a couple more people joining in real quick, just have to let them in. All right. So on the daily here on EU, we knew that our high time frame bias remains to be short. A lot of people are forgetting that what is driving my analysis 99% of the time is the last high time frame sweep.
What we said?
Right here. So what we also need to pay attention to, a lot of people are probably wondering, why isn't this the last high time frame sweep right here? Notice the difference in which the candle has closed on the liquidity point, right? When we look here, we can clearly see that the market has formed a pin bar on this inducement area, right? This daily inducement. Because we trapped with a wick right here, we know that the market formed a rate and run, right? If we refer all the way back to the first 5 videos, right? This wick that we're seeing right here is a rate and run. We can expect the market to continuously go down. What we're seeing right here is that medium hunt happening, right? There's candle closures happening below that liquidity area. We don't really want to be looking for reversals yet until we pretty much cross some other point of liquidity. Doesn't matter if it's a daily low or a previous day low, just some sort of external liquidity. We need to swipe before this thing can keep going up. Like I said, I'm still short into these positions right now, and I'm hoping it's just going to continuously melt and melt and melt. Right, and I got a pretty decent risk to reward ratio on, or a pretty decent stop loss size on this trade over here, which is what it's allowing it to bank consistently until I'm seeing. If I need to zoom out a little bit more. Right, we're definitely going to come take out these lows right here. No question about it. All right, I definitely want to start taking some profit around this area here because this is a key level. Right, just so we look at this on like the weekly chart as well, or just zoom out a little bit more on the daily, I can tell that if anything, we might even come try and sweep this area down here. This is in reality where the overall move might occur before the market might start heading up again or has some sort of change. Now, talking about seasonal changes or whatnot, we're starting to enter into May, right? So what that basically means when we enter into the spring season like this, we're going to be seeing a lot of consolidation. Right, here's that beginning of the year. This whole thing right here at the beginning of the year is just going to start the trend, right? But what we could expect is something similar to what we're seeing like this, or like this. There's a nice pool of consolidation happening. Now, that's not a bad thing. If anything, I actually prefer those conditions of the market because there's a lot of trap plays, right? It's not as many continuation plays like we're seeing in here, but we're going to be seeing a lot of trap plays. Right. But anyways, I'm pretty much waiting for EU to come down here. And once it does, I am going to take some profit. So if I do get off the screen, if this beeps, I will be getting on my phone to take some partials out because I don't want to be missing out on certain opportunities. And perhaps, I can go back onto the 1 minute, go back on the 1 minute and maybe get some buys into here, right? Short-term buys. This is still a daily level. And like I said, it's a very powerful daily level. I am going to expect a reaction here. I want to get into those news candles and manipulation candles in a little bit as well, but beforehand, let's go ahead and get into the 4 hour. To briefly talk about those manipulation candles and those news candles, basically what those are is when the candle runs liquidity, right? These inducement areas, these fractal areas with a ton of volume, right? And that candle is just abnormally larger than most of the other candles. And we clearly see that there is a lot of rejection in those candles, right? And pretty much what I said in the chat was we're looking for almost like a 50% of the body of the candle and 50% of the candle to also be a wick, right? When we see those two factors kind of line up, what we're expecting is we just pretty much understand that the candle at that point is manipulating and triggering sell stops or something at these lows, right? Like we can expect that here. I can just draw it out real quick, right? When we have just normal candles coming into the market, and then all of a sudden one just spikes in there and retraces all the way back down, and this is the body, this is the wick, 50% each. That was a terrible drawing, but I'm just trying to get the point across, right? We can pretty much expect that to start melting immediately. Now, it may not cause or be the main move, but we know it's a manipulation candle, right? So we can expect to at least scalp the market, but I wouldn't necessarily rely on it to be that swing position, right? The only time I'm swinging prices, that rule-based setup that I show you guys the majority of the time, right? That rule-based setup is all you really need to be looking for. As long as you're not forcing it or making it up, a lot of the time it's going to work out fairly nicely. And we're going to get into that here in a second, right? So what I was seeing on the 4-hour on EU, right? Here was this OB with a ton of imbalance and fair value gap to where this break of structure was, right? And this was the PDL, right? 4-hour inducement. Now, majority of the time we would be looking to trade back up, right, into these areas here. So basically all of this right here, as we know, is imbalance. All price needs to do is tap into this imbalance in order to run. So am I selling as soon as it taps that? Absolutely not. But once it taps that, right, and taps back into the PDL here, I do want to start looking for confirmation sells, right? I want to start seeing the market take a turn back to the downside, right? And I want to see that happen pretty much at the highest point. I don't want to be entering, once the market takes off and it starts, doing all this bullshit in here. I don't really want to be looking at it anymore. Your probability of grabbing that overall move that probability decreases for one in here, and like your margin of error increases as you keep trying to trade stuff all in here. Right? You really want to grab where the move is originating from. A lot of people are always asking, is it good to re-enter now? I mean, you always have to understand that, this is different from scalings, but those re-entries that come a long time after those scalings are always going to be less probable. Price can simply trap and do something brand new every single time. You try and re-enter at a complete premium of price, right? You always want to be at the complete discount area like this over here. Now that we kind of have an understanding of what's going on high time frame, I also want to show you guys what was going on over here, right? This was still a low of the day at one point, right? And I saw here that this little OB, this candle right here, was left unmitigated. And if we look really closely, right, we can see how this candle's low right here never got mitigated by this third candle over here, right? Now, because of that, I knew that there was like a tiny little just imbalance sitting in between there, telling me that, all right, this entire candle right here has validity to it. I'd like to see price come back into that in Asia, and I can start trading that. Well, I did see that during Asia, but after I stopped trading Asia after 10 p.m. and the move just so happened to happen after 10 p.m., which is unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. I still want to stick to my trading times because, the more that I stick to my trading times, the less error I'm going to have overall as a trader. All right, anyways, we'll hop into the 1 hour now. And we can start to see here's pretty much why you shorted throughout the day and why I had a short bias, right? We had the break of the lows right here, which are 50% continuations, 50% reversals. As you can see, you could have hit both. Here are those reversals into continuations, right? We induce, right, which is allowing price now to work its way all the way back up into the POI that had that little tiny imbalance, right? And then we are looking for confirmation entries in here to go short, right? So I will go into the 1 minute here in a second, but I still want to finish marking up the 1 hour, right? To show you guys every single little move that you could have caught in here, right? So here, it's all that algo structure that we always want to be paying attention for, right? The 1 hour algo structure. And if you remember, right, we do not need to be using 15-minute fractals. I mean, I know a lot of you guys want to be using them. The only thing I'll say about them is that they're always going to have a little bit more of a, lower chance of working out than the actual algo structure. And the reason for that being is that the overall move is not coming from the 15-minute fractals. It's coming from the, daily 4-hour or 1-hour inducements and traps and continuations, right? Those 15-minute positions can get knocked out pretty easily and become very frustrating. So when you are trading the 15-minute or those setups, I just recommend you risk a lot less. Right? Your RR and generally those trades on the 15-minute are going to have a tighter SL anyways. So in the grand scheme of things, it's just a lot safer and a lot better to be using a lower risk on those types of trades. All right, getting back into it here, right? Let's get this last piece of algo structure in there, and we know that is gray for continuations. And we can clearly see that the price has tapped back into all the way up here in order to fall, right? If we wanted to refine this, right, we have our original imbalance area right here. We could have our own designated area right here. And the reason for that being here, this is, I don't want to confuse anybody yet, right? So this was made on the 4-hour, this was made on the 4-hour, right? If we want to do the 1-hour view, we have this, right? Refined a little bit more. This actually on the 4-hour comes down as well. And then the rest of this right here is actually imbalance on the 1-hour. Right, and as you can see, you could have picked up positions here on the 1-hour after we broke all these lows, right? So we induced these lows, right? This is continuations. So that means I want to be trading these as continuations. Our overall bias, our high time frame bias, if you look back, is short. Can't forget about that guy, right? This is one of the most important factors. We also, right, took out the lows of the day, right? Again, we traded price back up into this POI, right? Which tells us, right, more so we hit these continuations into breaking more algo structure down here. All right, let me just get rid of all these lines real quick. I just start confusing myself. All right, so we get into all these lines right here, all right, breaking all these inducements that we know are continuations. Here's the POI that has the highest probability, right? So if we did have a retracement in here, I would be risking more. This is a little bit more of a premium-like area, but as we know, all price needs to do is tap that imbalance and it can just run. So as soon as it taps into this imbalance, it's safe to say that we can start looking for shorts, those continuation shorts. All right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm walking you guys through the higher time frame because I want you to understand the moves. All right, we're going to get into entries on the 1 minute. I hope people understand the minute is only used for execution. It's not used for direction or figuring out where price is going. I can read exactly where a price chart is going just by looking at, high time frame analysis or mid time frame analysis, right? Daily 4-hour, 1-hour are your best friend when it comes to trading, right? They're going to tell you where price is truly going to react from. The 1 minute's just going to tell you if it's truly going to react to where the high time frame is telling you it's going to react, right? Once you can simultaneously switch between the two effectively, everything becomes a lot easier, right? There will eventually be a point it's just second nature to know exactly what to look for. Fortunately, we have fractals to tell us where every single high and low is in the market. You don't even need to really search for it, right? As long as you just understand these ideologies and concepts, you should be fine. Anyways, coming over here, across the low of the day again, right? I'm sure if we hop onto the 15-minute, right? Because as we can see, there's no imbalance, right? On the 1-hour. Here's that candle with here's all that imbalance right here, right? Meaning all this right here is my extreme. Just want to make sure I marked up all my algo structure real quick. All right, and then here is that last low of the day. We could take out this low of the day, go higher, but again, I'm going to be patient, wait for those daily lows to get taken. I highly doubt this is going to hold right here and just rock it. If it does, that's rare. It could happen, but always be safe. Wait for those daily lows to get taken. Way more likely. All right. I don't see any more gapped lows of the days here. This all looks like it changed pretty nicely. Let's take a look at the 15-minute here. See what we could have been trading. We'll go ahead and see what happened in this area up here. See if we could have caught positions there, and or maybe we could have looked here for positions as well before this got swept. It's very unlikely we would have gotten positions here, right? Because we didn't break these 15-minute lows, right? This clearly used this as demand, shot up, and then it decided to start falling back down. So that doesn't really fit the rule set, right? We need to see a clear momentum shift. When you see the market shift, then come up and go, right? Even though something may work one time doesn't mean it's going to work another time for the most part. All right, so let's search here. Let's search here, and then we'll go into the positions I took around here. And I believe, no, I just took positions around here. I wasn't up for London over there. I was only up for New York today. Most of my positions were situated around this area here, right? And then I caught this whole move down, liquidated a good portion around here. Now I'm looking to liquidate a little bit more down here. All right, let's hop. Still have people joining. Let me just go ahead and finish marking this up with the 15-minute. This is still a high of the day, right? So I'm not going to mark that like I normally would with the 15-minute structure. Then here's this break down here.
Recording in progress.
All right. So now that we understand our complete bias, really we want to look for price to see where it's reversing here and here. Those would really be where the overall moves are based off of our high time frame analysis. Right, and then also based on our high time frame analysis, we know we can look for shorts here and then here as well. Anybody confused with how I identified where I'm getting my order situation from, like where I'm pretty much looking in order to start going into the M1? Cool. All right, I'm gonna hop into M1 now. When we come back over here, right, we need to be looking for that same pattern, right? We need to see that sweep, change of character, retest, right? And there's our entry. And or wait for that break of structure, price to come back up, hit this again, then go as a scaling, right? We can do that as well. Doesn't always have to be just that first change of character. All right, coming into here, we probably would not have gone in a position. All I can say is the only one that would have been probable would have been over here. Right? If we look at this setup, right, what do we clearly see? We see the accumulation. We see the manipulation. We see the distribution. Right? This is actually fairly good. I actually really like the way this AMD cycle is set up because I want to talk about the AMD cycle characteristics because a lot of people seem to be getting confused on some of those characteristics, right? We need to see some sort of clear accumulation here. Here's that clear accumulation, right? We take the tops of that. We can clearly see we have manipulated the top of that accumulation, right? Now we need to find the lows of that accumulation that came and broke those highs. Those would be all these down here. We want to find that lowest point right here. As I've talked about many times, if we have a liquidity buildup inside of the AMD cycle, that AMD buildup can either be the point of entry and or if we sweep it, right? And just after we sweep it, which is your higher probability entry, right? It is very likely to just melt, right? It's more so better to have a liquidity buildup in the AMD cycle than not, right? Your chances do increase. Now, the next thing we need to look for in the AMD cycle. So I want to talk about characteristics in the AMD cycle because I feel like that's going to help. Within the AMD cycle, we need to see the extreme clearly show imbalance, right? If we clearly look here, right, on the 1 minute, this candle right here has left an imbalance to this candle, right? We then had this really nice liquidity buildup, right? Fractal to fractal, fractal to fractal, equal highs, equal lows, right? We know this is a really nice liquidity buildup. We know this liquidity has to get swept into what? This imbalance, right? So if I walk you through this whole AMD cycle here, here's that accumulation. Again, we manipulate, sweep the highs. We come in, have that little buildup, which is really necessary, that interbank range, right? As we know, could just react here or here. Here's that change of character. Here's that it immediately impulses back up. Now, what's the next thing, right? If we didn't enter here, what would have been that next point of confirmation after we entered here? Here's that manipulation candle I'm talking about, right? Where 50% of the wick and 50% of the body is just abnormally larger than all the rest of these candles, right? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let me get rid of all that. So your first position in Asia would have been around here. Now, this is Asia, so your stop losses are generally a lot smaller, right? So here's why I've been trading Asia and why I like it. If you are able to catch that high of the day with a tiny SL like that, you can absolutely make racks, right? And this thing just melts to almost an over to 1 to 30 RR. I've been making almost 10 times the amount of money in Asia than I have been in New York, just because there's been cleaner setups, better mitigations, smaller SLs. The only thing that fucks me in Asia is the spread. All right, when I'm trading FTMO or my Forex funds in Asia, the spreads are almost up to a pip, and you're getting placed pretty shit. Like you're just getting in pretty shit like areas, and it does throw off the RR a little bit. Like I would say this would in reality be like 3.9, so 1 to 23 instead of 1 to 30. I mean, big deal, but you get the idea, right? You do need to increase your SL a little bit larger when trading Asia. But there is your crystal clear setup that we're always looking for. Is this always going to form after making something like this? No, absolutely not. But the confluence in this whole setup was just uncandid, right? We took out the lows of the day. We clearly had this whole refinement right here, this whole POI, right? High time frame bias is short. We even take out the highs of the day. So it's almost as if we're playing a reversal trade and high time frame continuation trade at the same time. Right. And then on top of that, we have the 1 minute confirmation as well. Like it just doesn't get any better than that. Right. Now, if we wanted to play the order flow, right, all we have to do is take extreme to extreme like this. And perhaps you can get this over here. But I don't think I would have traded that anyhow. Looks like you could have hit that in Frankfurt. But it's not really something I would have tried to get. Right. So let's say we're in this. Yeah, so someone have a question?
Oh yeah, can you show that first entry you were talking about?
This one right here?
Yeah.
All right, so look, we took out highs of the day right here. We know that we also, this previous day, right, we got to keep in mind the fractality of the market, right? What's going on overall? Overall, what's going on here is price induced these lows. We know that this structure point can mean continuations or reversals. Well, we clearly got the reversals here, but we know once we enter any of this area here, we can hit continuations. We just need to find that criteria for continuations over here currently, right? This is just mapping out where price should go on a higher perspective. We come over here, right? We took out high of the days, as we know, as reversals or continuations, right? Generally, we'd be looking for those continuations at the lows here, right? That broke these highs. That's why you saw price have, sorry. That's why you saw price have this nice reaction off this demand here. Right? Because we took out these, right? We know that we can reverse or continue. We know the reversals are more in favor based off of the high time frame and these continuations down here. Does that make sense? I'm just really trying to break down the market fractally here. It does take a long time to really start seeing it.
That makes sense.
Okay, cool. So coming back into this over here, right? Again, we're always looking for the same type of setups. Here's that AMD cycle, the what do you call it? Sweep, change of character, mitigation. It's that AMD lit cycle. Or yeah, whatever. And then here's this, right? To give extra confluence into it. And then, like I said, the two things you really want to look for, really the major thing you want to look for is making sure the extreme has some sort of, fair value gap or imbalance. If it doesn't have that, your probability chances generally go down. So that was what I could have gotten in Asia. But look at the time. It was around 11:45 my time. I just wasn't awake. I stopped trading over here. right? This is bedtime. So I don't want to be awake trading anymore. Anyways,
So you enter on like the imbalance, like the reaction on the imbalance.
the POI you're trading on the M1 just has to show some sort of imbalance, right? Notice every POI I'm taking is showing some sort of imbalance, which I'm marking in red. If I wasn't marking, I'm just not marking in the imbalance here, but here's that slight imbalance right here. It is giving off an imbalance. And yes, all it has to do is tap that imbalance and run. It's very slight sometimes on the 1 minute to look for that imbalance, but you just have to see price. Really, originally, the imbalance was here to here, but then that imbalance got mitigated by these candles up to here, but yet we still didn't tap into this POI. So I just dragged that imbalance across. I was like, okay, we might still need to fill this imbalance for dropping. That's exactly what happens, right? And then, like I said, the confluence all added up with the, the manipulation candle too. When we're looking at, well, I don't want to get a GU right now, but those manipulation candles are really going to hold some prejudice to the story. All right, let's come back over here now, right? We do not really need to be looking at trade until we induce these lows, and these lows, right? Because this is all the algo structure associated. I don't really want to be looking at the M15. It's kind of a waste of my time. All right, we come here. We're inducing all these lows right here. As soon as we induce this red, what do you call it? Support line or low, or 1 hour low for continuations or reversals, right? What am I looking for? Well, we know our overall bias again is supposed to be short, right? We see liquidity, previous day lows are still resting below. It's pretty clear to say that we should still be selling here. There's no reason why we should take the reversals, right? Our high time frame bias is still pointing short. There's nothing here, or even if I go to the 15-minute, I need to see something to tell me that I can sell in here, but there's no imbalance, right? Like, yeah, I'm tapping into red over here. Maybe once I tap into this imbalance, sure, I can start looking for a trade, but I just need confirmation, right? So come into here knowing that we're supposed to be looking short, I just do not get a setup, right? Hold on one sec. All right, there we go. All right, so I just need to be looking for a setup the majority of the time, right? When this comes and sweeps into this imbalance here, and I want to make this very clear, do you see the little slight distinction in red from this point here at this little point here? This is where price is first tapping into it, right? Now, right when price first taps into that, I'm starting to look for my AMD cycle. I just don't see any, right? Now, on the seconds time frame, a lot of people ask me why I don't use seconds. Well, here's why. I mean, this is a little 1 minute refinement for you, I guess. This is that first little tap into the red here. As you can see, there's a slight little gap. Remember, I was talking about this one time in one of my breakdown videos. This is still a sweep, and this is the low that caused that sweep. This is still a change of character, right? This is still the extreme of price. Now, you can enter this. I just personally don't like these types of trades, right? I personally do not. I need to see the 1 minute really unravel and unfold, which it didn't do. It did it over here a little bit more clearly, right? See where this, finally taps in. Here's the sweep, change of character. I just never got, that mitigation that I wanted. Now, you could have played, the 1 minute imbalance. Like I always talk about, the imbalance was originally right here when this candle formed. And then as you can see, price came back in, tapped into that imbalance, and that next open tapped in and just ran a bit, which makes sense. This over here just didn't have the fractals. It just doesn't really make the most entire sense for me to really take this trade. I just don't like it. It's just not clear to me. You have to take what's clear to you, right? This doesn't have as much clarity. This would have been something I would have most likely have taken. I don't know if I would have taken it the imbalance. There's a good chance I would have missed it. I probably would have been waiting to enter my position in here, right? So far, really the only thing I would have taken or these would have been these shorts, right? This is a crystal clear setup. I really like the way it looks. And as you know, this is the only trade you need throughout the entire month to have a sustainable income, right? Coming back down over here, now we still have to understand we did swipe previous day lows, external liquidity now. I'm now more inclined to start buying the market back up. Now, you can probably say over here, right, we do have that AMD cycle to go higher, right? Sweep to the downside, right? Finally get that change of character here. We do have that liquidity buildup. This technically would be that sweep, right? But what I do not see underneath this is imbalance, right? Originally it did have a nice little imbalance, but this came all the way down. The liquidity came to mitigate that whole thing, right? So because there was a lack of imbalance here, I decided not to, what do you call it? Well, I would have decided not to take it. I wasn't awake at this time. It was still 3:30 a.m., but that would have been really the kicker for it. And at the same time, we still tapped in back to this imbalance here to remain short. All right. Now what we need to be looking for, pretty much that next piece of the app, we need to see the next point of where algo structure got, what do you call it, induced. If we look over here at these lows of the day, this is where we induced lows of the day, right? Meaning at this point here, we can now start looking for reversals. Price came and tapped in to our POI right over here, the imbalance and POI, that high probability like setup. I prefer it going into that POI over than imbalance, right? Like I said, all this over here is a little bit more risky. I probably wouldn't be touching any of it, right? This now is a little bit more clear. The clarity is a little bit higher. I now feel a little bit more comfortable taking positions. I can now flip into my M1, right, and start looking for those good setups. If we come into here, you can clearly see once we induce right here, I had no opportunity to go long, right? I saw no opportunity anywhere here for me to go long. Okay, then I'm not going to force anything. What I am seeing is all this is just really nice liquidity buildup, right? So I know that some sort of chart pattern manipulation is about to occur, right? Here's that accumulation, right? Manipulation, distribution, boom, there it goes. Right. It is really windy right now and thunderstorming outside, so if my power just randomly goes out, I apologize. Anyways, coming back into this here, right? We know once we retrace back into this, we can start looking for that AMD cycle for continuations. What was I doing? I was waiting for that first push, right? Back in, right after we induced these lows. That first push was right up to here. Right, here's that push down, push up. There's that first push up, right? That to me is SP1. We swapped liquidity right into the imbalance. I see we made more liquidity, SP2. And then more liquidity here, SP3. Remember I said SP3 was the most probable outcome. And that's why this one just absolutely destroyed. This was still probable. I want people to go back into the VIP chat and see when I was doing this pretty much all live. Right, here's SP1, SP2. We know we can have a reaction at SP2, right? I had my POI like this. I did not have it like this. Why? I didn't have it like that because I knew that price could simply react in this imbalance here and just run. So I just made that one whole thing, right? I did see, you know, at the bottom of these fractals, this change of character, right? This came down. Now what I like about this is it came up and induced, right? It formed liquidity inside of the AMD. When it forms liquidity inside of the AMD, remember I said that's okay. It just can't be outside of the AMD cycle. If it's outside post AMD cycle, you know, it's more likely building that liquidity to actually run against you. Oh, my computer's freezing up. Give me 1 second. All right. So there's that little bit of inducement. Here's that imbalance, right? So we have that liquidity buildup in inducement and this right here, right? A little bit of imbalance with the OB at the extreme. So I started taking shorts here. I liquidated the majority right when we hit the lows of the day. Now, this is very important. The reason why I started closing off as soon as this candle came in and this candle came up, let me tell you why. Look how aggressive this liquidity run is. how aggressive this candle is. When that a candle just shoots down like that, what's happening? It says quantitative bots putting a bunch of people triggering sell stop orders. The market's going to take that up. I promise you, every time you see a candle just swipe out liquidity like that, a lot of people are like, why did you enter GU? I was like, did you see the candle it made? It was fucking massive, right? You can even see a similar thing over here. An absolutely large candle comes in sweeps SP3. The larger the candle, the sweep, the more likely the setup is going to work out, right? Because we know institutions and whoever are entering in here and looking to get back in at that OB here, which is why we absolutely funneled down, right? That thing melted. Now we also have this lows the day. Once it comes and induces again, we know we're still supposed to have continuation in this high time frame POI. Now putting all the confluences together, structural phase 1, structural phase 2, structural phase 3, we now have a high probability price cycle inducement continuation trade. Wow, that's a lot of words for one sentence, but you get the point. There's just a lot of confluence all riding up to this factor here. And you know, if you didn't have enough confluence in your favor, here again is that sweep. Right here's that change of character. Now, best part, here's that 1 minute POI with all this imbalance right here. Right? I didn't take all this imbalance. I just took this 1 minute candle. I figured it was enough. Right? That is a little bit more of like the gut feeling side of things. But now, if you wanted to scale in, you could have scaled in. I decided not to. But here is that next break of structure, right? That next low after the change of character, in which you could have taken, you know, this next stream of imbalance, right, with the imbalance into these scale-ins right here, right? And then the same thing happens again, right? You take out these lows once again, and you could have scaled in, you know, anywhere right here again. Now, like I said, I don't really like taking these next positions like silly. I just don't feel comfortable, especially when, you know, we just took out the lows of the day once again. And the worst part about the fact that we just took out these lows of the day is that, you know, this could just absolutely blow through this. There's no point of trying to force these, right? I'm okay with this position and this position. This one is just absolute shit. I wouldn't try it. Even though it worked out very nicely and had a pretty fantastic move, it's just not really worth it. All right, so now I need what I'm going to do now is go ahead and take a little bit more partials, but not too much, because I really do want to milk this thing as much as I can.
Ben,
Yes.
can I ask you a question about structure?
Yes.
Okay, so let's suppose that today price sweep a 15-minute fractal, like the entry that you were explaining right there. So price sweep 15-minute fractals, okay?
Which 15-minute fractal are you talking about?
I don't know, it can be anyone.
So like this one?
No, I prefer a green one.
Also, the thing about all these green fractals on the low here, these are all lows of the day, right? Remember how I color coded all these orange lines are lows of the day, right?
Okay.
The problem, we're not going to be trading it the same way as like 15-minute structure because of where it's placed, right? If we go into the hourly, you know, it's also an hourly fractal.
Okay, so if price sweeps a 15-minute fractal, if I want to take a continuation, I will be looking for the last candle in 15 minutes that grabs liquidity before the break, okay?
Right. So let's say our high time frame bias is short, our external bias is short, everything's short, right? We're on the 15-minute chart and we see price on the 15-minute just come and take out a 15-minute low like so. When we take out that 15-minute low, you can trade, like similar to the 1 hour, you can trade this back up, right?
And then take the continuation.
Right. And then you can start taking the continuation.
Yeah, because and I have to enter on the last candle in 15 minutes that grabs liquidity before the break, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, of course, then we will look for the MAD cycle or SP1, SP2, SP3, or whatever we do for refinement, but it's in that zone. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Does anybody else have any questions? That's pretty much it in terms of EU today. Or at least all the good positions that I saw in the market. All right, well, if then no one else has any more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here in a little bit. But yeah, I definitely hope this helped a lot of you guys out. Like hopefully these breakdowns do, because it really does break down every little thing that I'm looking for pretty periodically throughout the day, right? This was just EU. You know, there were you know, if we come to GU here, there were no good positions in GU, right? Like all we had were maybe this opportunity to go long, but that was it. There were no other opportunities to look long here. This thing never came back up into these POIs to try and go short, which is in reality what we wanted, and it never did that. And if we come over to gold, yes, I was eventually looking for continuations around this area here. You know, once we took these lows out here, I was looking for continuations here, but we just never, you know, set up. It never gave me anything to tell me that this was going to go short. And we also had chances to go long here, right? Especially when I saw this happen, sweep, change of character right here. I was waiting for this to come back down, but it just blasted off way too quick. It already, you know, took out these highs and took out these highs. And then, you know, by the time it just comes back after all, it's just not going to work, right? This is building liquidity to spike through it, which it did right here. But here, I want to mention, I want to mention something one more time again. Here's that manipulation candle I'm talking about where it takes out those support and resistance lows, right? That one little candle. See, I can't give limit orders for you guys when this candle comes in like this. Like, all that you can do is, you know, once it happens, draw out that wick and you can take any order that comes into here, right? And that's kind of what I've been doing with the 1 minute on those types of entries, right? That's what I should have done with GU, but it never came directly towards that wick, but could have got this, right? We knew this was the inducement to go lower, right? There was no way I could have gone short here though. I just didn't find any sort of entry criteria for it. If we back test this little area real quick and take a look, right, what can we see price took? Well, here's that OB, it clearly took that imbalance, but I'm never going to just instant entry on an imbalance like that, right? It just wouldn't make sense for me. Although, you know, it does make sense because this is still the, you know, break of the low, liquidity build up all down here, right? But that, all this, I mean, even though it's the logic behind it, it's just, again, from a live perspective without a confirmation like setup, to me, it's subjective. And I always need those rule-based setups for me to know that I'm trading in an objective way and taking those good setups. So, all right, cool. That's enough for one day. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, can you go to EU on Thursday? Like, was there any setups or was it just like all manipulation?
EU on Thursday. So I'm talking last week.
Yeah,
All right.
on the 21st.
What is that? 21st? So here. Yeah, you could have gotten. Yeah, you could have gotten EU sells all the way up here. This is where that main daily sweep was. Right? We took out these highs, trapped all these traders, and you could have gotten a huge move.
So not in New York though.
No, New York
Okay.
wouldn't have had anything. I mean, you could have, right? I mean, there's still. Here's the break of these lows, right? You have this as the main POI. This is really where we really want it, and then here's all this as imbalance, right? And it did hop into that imbalance and then rock it down. So yeah, you could have, you know, maybe gotten something in there.
Okay, and like with those imbalance setups, do you like take the imbalance and then you put your stop loss all the way at the extreme, right?
I did take this setup actually. I think I showed you guys this one. Hold on, yeah, this one, right? It hopped in to there, sweep, change of character, I don't think I entered this one actually. I was gonna say I would have waited for something out here. There's just no clear imbalance to me on this. I probably wouldn't have taken it. But yeah, this was doable. You could have, like I said, just entered on the flip. I never do that. And up here, you could have tagged into these. There's that inside range, right? It didn't get tagged in there, you get tagged in there, and then it melts. All right, so you do have your 2 opportunities to get in it. All right, you good?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right, cool. Well, no one else has any more questions, just reach out on my DMs if you need anything else. Yeah, continue the good work. I'll probably be back on a little bit later tonight around, I'm gonna try for 8 p.m. If Raymond hasn't told you guys already, we've been testing a signals page, right? So hopefully we'll get that going at some point in the next month or two. Because we want to create a little channel we can just send out our trades. Those are probably all going to be limit orders. I'm not going to give out any flip trades like right when something crosses. I'm just going to do straight limits. Right here, I can show you what I mean. It'd probably be similar. So I have it right here. It'd be similar to stuff like this. Right. So I have been putting in trades in here, testing it out. Raymond over here. So should be fun. You guys can make some money that way too in the future. All right. Well, other than that, yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you guys tomorrow.